In this video, I want to give you some AIP diet friendly coffee alternatives because life without coffee really isn't as bad as you probably think it is. Now, coffee is eliminated on AIP because it is a seed, and all seeds are eliminated in the elimination diet portion of AIP. However, it's really not as bad as it may seem. To get off of coffee, you may want to kind of ramp down on the amount of caffeine you have, but AIP is not a caffeine-free protocol either. So if you really want caffeine, you can always have tea. Now, I do caution you that if you have some sort of adrenal fatigue or are going through a lot of sugar cravings and stuff, that caffeine in general should be taken out or reduced to an absolute minimum because caffeine can kind of trigger that. So I will caution you there. But other than that, I want to go ahead and give you a whole bunch of options that you can have instead of coffee while on the AIP diet. In a minute, I'm going to show you a bunch of different recipes that you can go ahead and make. But before I get to that, I do want to mention a few things that you can also have instead of coffee. So one, I did a video that you can see here that's about Coffig, which is a fig-based beverage. It's like roasted figs, and then you can brew it kind of like coffee in a French press, and it is a really good alternative to coffee, especially if you want to have it as a base for some latte kind of things, or just have it by itself. But tea is also okay. Do be careful when you have tea to make sure that there's no gluten, soy lecithin, or some other additives that are not AIP friendly. Sometimes they can sneak into like the tea bags or into the tea mixes, so just be mindful of that. And then also make sure that there's no herbs in there that are immune stimulating, things like elderberry or goji berry or some of these other things that are going to, like ashwagandha, things that you cannot really have anyway on AIP, but sometimes they can make their way into tea as well. So just be on the lookout for that. And then also yerba mate is okay. And then things like bone broth. You can have chicken, beef, veggie, fish. All those different stocks are a great way to replace coffee and still have a warm beverage. Now I'm gonna go ahead though and show you 5 different recipes that you can go ahead and make. These are warm drinks to have on AIP on a cold, snowy day when you need something to kind of cozy up to and warm you up from the inside like a nice warm hug. Let me go ahead and show those to you. The first one is a Chicory Dandelion Coffee, which is quite bitter like regular coffee and a decent substitute. So you're gonna add 1 teaspoon of dandelion root, a 1/4 teaspoon of chicory root, and if desired, a 1/4 teaspoon of carob powder as well. You want to add all of this to a French press or a saucepan, and then add 8 to 10 ounces of hot water. Give it a good stir, and then let it steep for 3 to 4 minutes. When time's up, simply strain and pour into a cup and serve. You can drink this plain with some creamer, or it's also a great base for some of the drinks that I'll be sharing in a minute to give it a little bit more of a bitter coffee-like taste. The next few drinks are going to be using this simple organic coconut milk, which is guar gum free, but you can also use your homemade coconut milk, tiger nut milk, or banana milk for this as well. Next, we have an AIP Chai Latte, where you're going to add 1 cup of coconut milk, a 1/4 teaspoon of mace, which is an AIP compliant nutmeg substitution, a 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1 to 3 teaspoons of maple syrup, depending on how sweet you like it, and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla powder. Give it all a good whisk, and then heat until desired temperature and serve. Next up is a hot chocolate using carob powder instead of cocoa. You'll want 1.5 tablespoons of carob powder, 1 tablespoon of coconut sugar, an 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon, and an 1/8 teaspoon of sea salt, and mix that with 1 cup of milk. Give it a good whisk and heat and serve. Now we have a beetroot latte, and this one is really simple. It's just a cup of milk with 1 teaspoon of beetroot powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. As with the others, whisk it, and then heat it until desired temperature and serve. And finally, we have a golden milk turmeric latte. This one just needs 1 cup of milk, 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder, a half teaspoon of dry ginger, 1 to 3 teaspoons of maple syrup, and optional is a pinch of cinnamon and or vanilla powder. Go ahead and whisk it and heat, and then serve. So hopefully those give you some ideas of some things that you can have other than coffee while on AIP. A lot of these are great in the afternoon when you're just missing that cup of coffee to kind of pep you up at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You can have one of these, or you can have it with your breakfast, how you would usually have coffee. There's so many different ways to do this, and there's so many more options. These are just 5 of them, but I do have to say that I'm no longer on AIP. I've mentioned that before that I do paleo now, but I still use and drink most of these all the time because I like these better than coffee. I'll have coffee, I'll have a cup in the morning with my breakfast, but other than that, I do these instead. So these are things you can take well past AIP and enjoy for the rest of your life. I hope you do enjoy, and if you haven't already, get the password to my Paleo and AIP freebie library at the link below, and I will see you next time.